Looking back on my literacy experiences thus far, I've come a long way. To this day, I vividly remember being in a supplemental reading class of only 2 students in first grade. The class was focused on helping those who were still having trouble reading after kindergarten. The class consisted of my first grade teacher, my friend Kevin, and myself. That was it. I think almost anyone can agree that being an outlier in elementary school is a child's worst nightmare. I was so embarrassed about being in the class that I would fake being sick to avoid going to school. I hated everything about school, especially this literacy class. At the time, the only thing that kept me motivated was my desire to be like everyone else. However, as the year went along, I started to really enjoy the stories we were forced to listen to and read. I realized that I really liked hearing stories, and I could hear as many as I wanted by reading on my own. This was when my interest in reading books really sparked, and this was the first kind of literacy I was exposed to. As the years passed and I approached the early years of middle school, I continued reading books. My favorite genres were always mystery and adventure. My favorite mystery books growing up were from the Nancy Drew series as well as the Hardy Boys. As for adventure books, I always loved books by Jules Verne, especially 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. This is the only book I can recall rereading. The story was so simple yet so entertaining. Although the story had plenty of fictive moments, these fictive moments sparked my imagination and kept me interested in the story. My interest in reading books waned as I grew older and as distractions such as social media became present in my life. In 8th grade, I got my own MySpace. At the time, everyone was on MySpace and I wanted to know what it was all about. Although looking back on it now, I think of it as foolish, I also must admit that I learned a lot from using this social networking site. First of all, I learned that having a MySpace account as a 13-year-old was not a great idea as it attracted attention from interesting crowds, but I won't go into that. On the more academic side, MySpace was great because it taught me a lot about media incorporation. You could put a theme song on your page, incorporate and edit photos, backgrounds, things like that. And of course, there was plenty of social interaction through comments, statuses, you name it. Although I wouldn't consider MySpace a conventional portal of literacy, I still consider it to be a form of literacy nonetheless. Reflecting on my experiences with these two vastly different forms of literacy, I want to emphasize the fact that literacy is an evolving concept that is present across multiple platforms these days.